South Carolina to DFW, shape diamond, color blue, estimated size, 30 feet across. Viewed from aircraft, 30 feet across. Viewed from aircraft, direction from viewer 30 degrees, angle of elevation 80. Plus this distance, very hard to estimate, maybe 5 miles. Since it kept pace with the plane, probably 350 mile an hour. Lights on object, emitted other objects, aircraft nearby. The blue diamond-shaped object can be seen during the last 1/3 of the video in the very far upper right, rotating end over end. My friend was on a night flight from North Carolina to DFW, and he estimates this video was taken over the northeast Texas and Arkansas state lines. It is located in the far extreme upper right edge of this video. He looked throughout the inside of the plane cabin and did not notice any other possible light from within the cabin that could be the cause of a possible reflection causing this. The diamond-shaped blue object seems to be moving very slowly, rotating end over end, and appears to split into two separate objects at the end of the recording. That's a fact. It's strange. Very, very good quality video. I really like that one right there. This says Pine Bluff, Arkansas, 2/2024, shape oval, whitish blue, estimated size unknown, lights on object. UFO came from the north. I noticed this object from the north around 7:37 p.m. at Pine Bluff. It changed direction multiple times and seemed to ascend and descend before it disappeared to the south. The UFO got brighter. Yeah, very cool. There's a good one. Here's another pilot reported UFO. It looks like 1724, duration 3 minutes, number of observers 1, military. Location Sherwood, Arkansas. Viewed from Little Rock Air Force Base control tower, looking west. Shape unknown, color bright white light, estimated size unknown, viewed from land, direction from viewer. The object was west of my position, angle of elevation 21, closest distance 10 miles, estimated speed 500 knots, explanation, rocket, okay. Lights on object or haze, viewed from Little Rock Air Force Base control tower, looking west. Several pilots were talking on emergency frequency about the object. I was alone at work in the air traffic control tower when I heard a pilot ask over the emergency frequency about a bright object. Another pilot responded it was a rocket. I spotted it to the west of my position, a bright white light maybe 10 miles away. It was moving slowly southbound. I checked our radar and saw no indication of an aircraft in that position. It appeared at one point to split out of a cloud in front of it, shaped like a smoke ring, moving through the air with the light following it. The pilots were continuing to talk about it on emergency frequency. After about 3 minutes, it appeared to just fade away. Someone on emergency frequency said it exploded, but I did not see an explosion. I have a pretty clear video of it that amazed my coworker when I showed it to him. Yeah, they do have videos not playing. I don't know, man. You know, here's the thing. They call these things rockets. This puts me to mind of the Chinese lantern situation. Are they all over the place? Who's putting them up? Why couldn't they just make an announcement? They just seem, it almost gets into the situation where like, oh, let's just call it a drone. I don't know about some of these things. This one here is from Rector, Arkansas. It says date 1724, approximately 60 to 90 seconds. Highway 49, south of city limits. Shape unknown, bright to hazy. Estimated size unknown, viewed from land. Direction from viewer northwest. Angle of elevation 30, closest distance 1 mile. Speed unknown. Object moved right to left. On routine patrol at Rector city limits. Observed object in sky northwest of my position. What drew my attention was the size in the sky. This is the same area of our tiny municipal airport. I could not see navigation lights or landing takeoff lights, nor could I make out any normal aircraft design features such as wings or rotors. I started photographing as object moved right to left, southwest, and was tracking horizontal to the horizon from my viewing point. It appeared to have a ball shape at one point. When I took the last photo, I attempted to step out of the patrol unit for a video, but it was no longer visible. No sound that I can tell. I'm 52 and a veteran. I'm employed as a part-time patrolman with the Rector Police Department. I am an aviation enthusiast and know many configurations of aircraft and helicopters. I am not prone to jumping to conclusions or mistaking what I see. I was on duty at the time of observation. It's weird, man. It's like a big white orbish cloud there. I think it's enormous. I don't know what this thing is. Cool picture. Definitely not a drone, I can tell you that. Wild stuff. There's one from Mayflower, Arkansas. It says 1/7/24, duration 1 to 2 minutes, Mayflower, Arkansas. Color whitish blue shaped orb. When viewed at arm's length, it was about coin size from land. Pretty good size. Direction from Bureau southwest, angle of elevation 45. Closest distance maybe 3 to 5 miles. Slow but steady, maybe moderate speed. Emitted other objects. Bright ball of light that shot what looked like a white smoke ring out of the front of ball of light. I was leaving my second job, and as I walked out the back door, it had already gotten dark. So I quickly noticed a bright ball of light in the sky, a few miles off the distance. The ball of light was slowly moving parallel with the ground from my right to left. I'm guessing maybe a mile or two above the ground. Heard no sounds whatsoever. Quickly got my cell phone out and started to record it on video. It was about 10 seconds or so after I started recording that the ball of light suddenly shot out what looked like a white smoke ring in front of it, and as the ring started to grow in diameter, the ball of light traveled through the smoke ring. Wow. And then slowly started to dissipate and get dimmer to then maybe 30-second total after starting to dissipate, it just disappeared and was completely gone. Well, they're claiming this was another rocket launch. I don't know. Weird stuff. I don't know. I read some of these off. I guess you have to make up your own mind. They're far enough south, maybe they're seeing more of those things than some of the people in the north are. Here's one from Little Rock, Arkansas. It says 12/16/23, observers 2 pilot, location Little Rock, Arkansas, about 200 miles southeast of Little Rock, Arkansas at 32,000 feet. It's another plane video, or plane report. Shape, flight, color, weight, estimated size, unidentified. Viewed from aircraft. Direction from viewer 250 to 279. Angle of elevation 40. Closest distance 250 nautical miles. Mach 5 for speed. Lights on object. 5 lights moving rapidly and changing direction. I was a pilot flying to Little Rock, Arkansas at 32,000 feet. My first officer had told me earlier that he had seen strange dancing lights to the west on every night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. At about 11:05 Eastern Time, we began seeing multiple lights due west at extreme altitudes. They appear to be tracking south at extreme speeds and altitudes in excess of 100,000 feet. I estimate the speed to be somewhere beyond Mach 5, but it is difficult to estimate accuracy given the unknown range. Visibility was unlimited, and I estimate the objects to be around 300 miles to the west. 2 of the objects appear to be following each other, greatly varying their speed and course. They appear to be able to stop and change direction, sometimes abruptly switching from a southerly track to a northeasterly track. There were 5 objects in total, with up to 4 seen at one time. One of the objects was at a much higher altitude or much closer range. They varied in brightness up to the point of being the brightest objects in the sky for brief periods. This continued until we arrived in Little Rock. These objects are appearing with extreme regularity beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern and are a widely discussed phenomenon on the radios as of the last few months. That gives you some insight to what's actually happening out there. These pilots are seeing them and they're talking about them. Man, that is really something. There's one from 10/16/23. It says duration approximately 10 seconds. Number of observers 1. Location Arkansas. Over Arkansas or western Tennessee. Shaped cylinder. Lower altitude flyby of Allegiant Flight 3145 on 180 flight trajectory. I was seated in seat 4A window seat on Allegiant Flight 3145, an Airbus 320 aircraft that was at 34,000 feet cruise altitude at 450 knots, as related by the piloting aircrew. As I glanced out the window, I witnessed an oblong, cylindrical, wingless object at an estimated 15 to 20,000 foot altitude. This object was on a course parallel to Flight 3145, but on a 180-degree trajectory. Allegiant Flight 3145 was out of Austin Bergstrom International Airport, Texas, with the destination of McGee-Tyson Airport, Knoxville, Tennessee. The object was visible estimated seconds off the port side, below, and disappeared aft. At the completion of my flight, I spoke to one of the pilots after I identified myself with identification and asked if they had a radar contact at this estimated altitude of 058 CDT during our flight. This pilot stated the flight crew had not had a radar contact at that time. I asked if this observation was reportable to FAA, and he stated that it was. A check of the FAA website referred me to your site after a second search. The object was completely white, cylindrical, without lights and without wings. Estimated size was comparable to an airliner. Weather was scattered clouds and the object was above cloud level. My professional background is that of a paramedic with 34 years experience as both paid and volunteer. You can just imagine there being your airplane seat and look out to this giant cylindrical shaped UFO. That is really cool. We'll do a couple more here and we'll wrap this up. This is from Hot Springs, Arkansas. It says dated 10/11/23. Shaped cigar, color white, view from land, angle of elevation 45. Possible drone, they think. Characteristics says it did make a sound. No visible wings, moving slow and odd sound. I know this sounds crazy, but something told me to go outside and look up. When I did, I saw the object moving steady through the sky. Faint kind of sound like wind tunnel followed it. Has to be some type of drone or something. No, it doesn't have to be. It can be a UFO. Rather large as it was high up. Just odd. Figured something common since it was broad daylight. Not like anything common to me. I've been seeing many moving lights at night, bright white, that are going fast and many times just disappear. My doorbell cam has picked up weird light at night as well. I've also seen a streak of bright light that seemed to flash or burst through the sky, then disappear like a hole open in the sky. Been seeing things in Benton and Hot Springs area for about 6 months. That's when I actually started viewing the sky. Well, here's a person that's starting to get nudged off their normalcy bias a little bit and starting to say, man, something really has gone on here. We'll take a look at one more. This one here says 5/19/2023, Observers 2, location Redfield, Arkansas. Location NCTR Road going down into Lock and Dam 5, shaped triangle. Characteristics, lights on objects, emitted other objects, changed color, animals reacted. Huge spaceship floating over the car. Got my attention immediately. First, let me start with, I have never seen anything of the sort. My fiance and I drive this road at least one time every day on good days. We'll drive it maybe 2 to 3 times a day. So it's a familiar to them. It's my favorite place. Tonight we had an amazing lightning storm, which we don't normally get. I decided to go later in the night since my kid was staying with my cousin. It was 11 when we turned down NCTR and went over the train tracks. I immediately noticed a star in the sky and announced to my fiance that was weird, being as the sky was so cloudy from the storm. He started to pay attention to it more at this point. He says, "Did that just move?" I told him I didn't know. I couldn't see it from the windshield. He said, "Holy expletive, it did move. It changed from a 1-star looking light, then it spread apart into 3-star looking lights with 3 red lights in the tips of the triangle, the bottom of the ship," my fiance said. "Look out the window. I got the steering wheel." I did a quick head tilt to the left of my window and I saw 2 white lights with a red light flashing between the white one. I stated, "That's just a tower, baby." Immediately, I realized there was no tower in the field. There's actually a pond down in the valley, right in that area, and it is now open. Almost all the trees have been cut to where you can see down the pond. Once again, 5 seconds go by, and my fiance is grabbing the wheel again, telling me to look out my window, that I wouldn't believe what I was fixing to see that he thought it didn't look right when I was going to miss it. I rolled my window back down enough where I could tilt my head to the side again, but this time I couldn't see it. I stuck my head out of the window and looked straight up above my car. It was so huge. I can't even explain the texture of the ship. It looked shiny, but gooey, like if you were to touch it, slime would be stuck in your hand. And it was most definitely a black vessel. It was as low as the trees. I'd say only 100 feet above my car. I felt immediate danger and took off. Keep in mind, the speed limit is 45 on this road, and yes, if my daughter isn't in the car, I ride 5 over, so I was going 50 miles per hour. I sped to the river and just sat there for a few seconds, trying to get the courage up to drive back down the road to get out of NCTR to come back home for the night. It was exactly 11:22 when I looked out my window and the ship was above my car. Did I mention there was no sound? It was just hovering silently. No wind from it, no sound waves after I took off, nothing. There was a car behind me at the same time, but I'm not sure if they saw it. They kept going. I assume they lived down there somewhere. They were going to run. We finally talked ourselves back up to leave. I called my mom as soon as I got service and made her stay on the phone with us because we were freaking out the whole time trying to see where it went. We never found it. It was gone by the time we made it back down the road. That confirmed it was not a tower. I realized afterward I had never heard one cricket the whole time I was down the road, which is extremely not normal. Wow, what an amazing account to be out there driving with a boyfriend and look up and see this giant triangle UFO just perched over your car. I could see why a person might get a little bit sense of heightened awareness at that point. Well, some great sightings out of Arkansas. People are really seeing stuff and they're really reporting it. Until next time, this is UFO Warning. Over and out.
Let's listen in on a live, unscripted second grade Challenger School class.
this episode we're talking about the O'Hare Mothman. That's correct, the O'Hare Mothman. Now, the O'Hare Mothman is a mysterious winged humanoid creature seen around Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. Witnesses describe it as standing around 6 to 7 feet tall with a wingspan exceeding 10 feet. Its most striking feature is its glowing red eyes, which are often described as piercing or menacing. The creature is typically seen at night, flying silently or perching near airport buildings. Many believers consider it a harbinger of doom, similar to the Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and view its appearance as a sign of impending disaster or otherworldly forces at play. To begin with, I want to take a look at this first article here from HangarOnePublishing.com. It says, the Mothman of O'Hare winged humanoid sightings haunt Chicago's skies. We don't have a date on this, but it's written by Jack Sullivan, cryptozoologist. It says, it's a crisp autumn evening at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. A United States Postal Service worker, a 15-year veteran of the job, is walking to her car after a long shift at the sorting facility. As she approaches her vehicle, she notices a tall, dark figure standing at the far end of the dimly lit parking lot. Initially, she assumes it's just a person wearing a long coat, but as she unlocks her car and the headlights illuminate the mysterious silhouette, a chilling realization dawns upon her. This is no ordinary person. The figure turns to face her, revealing a pair of large, glowing red eyes. What she had mistaken for a coat unfurls into a set of massive, bat-like wings. The creature, standing well over 7 feet tall, begins emitting an unsettling chirping sound, a rapid clicking noise that sends shivers down her spine. Suddenly, it lets out a deafening screech and charges directly at her, its wings propelling it forward at an alarming speed. In a moment of sheer terror, the woman dives into her car, locking the doors and frantically starting the engine. As she peels out of the parking lot, the winged monstrosity soars overhead, vanishing into the night sky. And I couldn't imagine a much more terrorizing experience than that, just walking to your car after work and having this crazy thing take off running toward you, going airborne and flying over your car. This spine-chilling encounter is just one of many that have plagued Chicago's O'Hare International Airport in recent years. A wave of sightings eerily reminiscent of the infamous Mothman legend that originated in Point Pleasant, West Virginia during the 1960s has gripped the airport and its surrounding areas. The Mothman, a cryptozoological entity described as a large humanoid creature with glowing red eyes and expansive wings, has long been a subject of fascination and fear. Its alleged appearance at Point Pleasant just months before the tragic collapse of the Silver Bridge in 1967 has cemented its status as an omen of impending doom. Now it seems the Mothman has found a new haunt in the skies above Chicago. The O'Hare sightings, which began in earnest around 2011 and have continued to the present day, have reignited interest in this enigmatic being. Witnesses, ranging from airport personnel to visitors, have reported terrifying encounters with the winged humanoid that bears an uncanny resemblance to the Mothman at Point Pleasant. As the sightings persist and the accounts accumulate, one can't help but wonder, is the Mothman a harbinger of disaster, a supernatural entity, or something else entirely? Wow, that is really crazy, isn't it? Then it goes on here, it says, the modern saga of the O'Hare Mothman began on a chilly November evening in 2019. A truck driver picking up a load at the airport's bustling cargo area had stepped away from his vehicle for a smoke break. As he stood near the parking lot fence, movements in the periphery of his vision caught his attention. There, standing just outside the perimeter, was a tall, bird-like entity. The driver, perplexed by the sight, watched as a creature she described as, quote, a person with wings that were stretched out and flapping, began walking toward an open field. Moments later, the being took flight, its wings propelling it into the night sky before it vanished from view. This sighting, while unnerving, might have been dismissed as an isolated incident or trick of the light. However, in the months that followed, a series of similar reports began to surface, all centered around O'Hare International Airport. Witnesses, many of whom were airport employees, came forward with their own chilling tales of encounters with the winged humanoid. Security guards, airline staff, and even pilots recounted sightings of a large, dark figure with glowing red eyes and an impressive wingspan.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th mid-commercial. No.
that. Lowering gas prices. $3.58 for diesel.
While each encounter is unique, certain commonalities emerge and paint a vivid picture of its specific behavior. One of the most striking sightings occurred in February 2020 when an airport security officer was raising a car during a routine cigarette break. As he stood
Hola,
on the
Jasmine
Diaz.
Diaz.
There in the shadows was a massive black man figure. As the officer watched in a mixture of awe and terror,
What did I say?
the creature turned its head, revealing a pair of
$2.91 for gas
pierced
prices
through the darkness. Suddenly, the entity let out a bone-chilling shriek,
at
a
Love's
sound that the
and
witness
Brigham City.
compared to the screeching of convicts.
I forgot how much it was at Maverick.
Speed and agility, the Mothman-like being took to the sky, its powerful wings propelling it upwards.
Wonder how much it is at Tremont.
Into the night. Equally unnerving is the account of the USPS
I put my
worker
shoes on.
in September 2020, during a late shift.
And I gotta go
She
pay.
made her way to her car.
Let's go get a drink while I'm at it.
She approached the vehicle. She noticed a tall dark figure standing at the far end of the lot. Initially mistaking it for a person in a long
Pauses.
coat, she unlocked her car, caused
It's gonna be silent for a minute. Where did I put it? Yes. Alright. I go pay for gas. I'll be back. drink. Guess. Alright, $26. To mine stop. Just work. Why?
A rapid chirping sound, followed by a terrified screech, and a display of aggression. The creature charged toward her, closing the distance at an alarming rate before taking flight and soaring directly overhead. This clicking sound almost reminds me of some kind of a reptilian behavior. Something that alligators are known to do. The young ones, making it like a cry for help to like the mother alligator. Kind of strange stuff there. It says then, these two accounts, while undoubtedly the most dramatic, are far from isolated incidents. Numerous other witnesses have come forward with their own sightings, each adding a new piece to the puzzle of the O'Hare Mothman. Some have reported seeing the creature perched atop buildings or light poles, its red eyes gleaming in the darkness. Others have described the entity as having a humanoid body structure, human-like legs and arms, in addition to its expansive one. Common thread that emerges from these accounts is the Mothman's apparent awareness of and interest in its human observers. Many witnesses have reported feeling as though the creature was watching them intently, its gaze locked on them with an unsettling intensity. In some cases, the Mothman has been described as maintaining direct, prolonged eye contact, as if studying or challenging the witness. This behavior, coupled with the creature's imposing size and otherworldly appearance, has left many observers feeling deeply unnerved and even threatened. This prolonged eye contact almost reminds me of bird behavior, like you might expect out of a large predator bird, say an eagle or a hawk or something. It says another striking aspect of the sighting is the Mothman's apparent lack of fear or concerns for being spotted. Unlike most animals, which tend to flee when confronted by humans, the O'Hare Mothman seems to display a bold, almost brazen demeanor. Witnesses have reported that the creature often makes no attempt to conceal itself, even when in close proximity to people. This peculiar behavior has led some to speculate that the Mothman is not a mere animal, but an intelligent entity with an agenda of its own. As the sightings continue to accumulate, the need for a thorough investigation into the Mothman phenomenon becomes increasingly apparent. While skeptics may dismiss the accounts as misidentifications or hoaxes, the sheer volume and consistency of the reports suggest that something more complex is at play.
Give me
Whether the Mothman is a
1
previously unknown cryptid.
second. Give me 1 second, I'll be back. Alright, I'm back.
A supernatural being or manifestation of some other unexplained phenomena, its presence at O'Hare demands closer scrutiny. It says Mothman in the Midway, sightings beyond the airport grounds. Now this is something too, it seems like these sightings are spreading around O'Hare to other parts of Chicago and even beyond Chicago a little bit, which I guess we could expect with a creature that can fly. It says, while the majority of the Mothman sightings have occurred within the confines of O'Hare International Airport, the winged enigma has not limited its appearance to the aviation hub alone. Reports of encounters with the creature have surfaced from various locations throughout the greater Chicago area, suggesting that the Mothman's experience extends far beyond the boundaries of the airport. One of the most intriguing sightings took place in broad daylight, a departure from Mothman's typical preference for the covered darkness. A Chicago firefighter stationed at O'Hare was taking a break on the roof of the airport's HVAC plant when he spotted a peculiar figure perched on the edge of the building. The entity, described as having a humanoid body and expansive wings, was staring directly at the firefighter with his piercing red eyes. The two engaged in a tense, prolonged stare down, neither one breaking eye contact. After what felt like an eternity, the Mothman casually unfurled his wings and leapt from the rooftop, gliding away with an air of nonchalance. That would have to be a mind-blowing experience to just see this thing perched on top of this building, several stories up from the sounds of it, and just gliding off like some kind of a humanoid bird. It says this daylight sighting, while rare, serves as a reminder that the Mothman is not confined to the shadows. Its brazen appearance in broad daylight, coupled with its seeming indifference to being observed, adds an additional layer of intrigue to the mystery surrounding this winged humanoid. Reports of Mothman sightings have also begun to emerge from the suburbs and neighborhoods surrounding O'Hare. Residents have described encounters with a large winged creature in parks nearby and even in their own backyards. These sightings, while less frequent than those at the airport, suggest that the Mothman's territory extends well beyond the aviation hub. Perhaps most unsettling are the rumors of widespread sightings by passengers and pilots alike. Thinking this thing's flying around the airport's bad enough, but if it's in the air at an altitude where the planes are at, wow. While official reports are scarce, whispers among airport staff suggest that the Mothman has been spotted by hundreds of individuals within O'Hare's terminals, concourses, and even in the skies above. If these rumors are to be believed, the implications are staggering. The idea that a winged humanoid could be brazenly navigating the airport's bustling spaces, observed by countless people, raises questions about the creature's nature and intentions. For sure, it also raises questions to me about the safety of this thing. As the sightings continue to pour in from various locations, the parallels to the Point Pleasant Mothman flap of the 1960s become increasingly apparent. In the months leading up to the tragic collapse of the Silver Bridge, Point Pleasant and the surrounding areas were inundated with reports of winged and red-eyed creatures. The Mothman's appearance was seen by many as an omen of impending disaster, a harbinger of the catastrophe to come. Now, with the O'Hare sightings mirroring the events of Point Pleasant, some have begun to speculate about the potential for a similar tragedy in the Chicago area. While the notion of a supernatural creature predicting or even causing disasters may seem far-fetched, the historical precedent set by the Point Pleasant case lends an air of unease to the current situation. As the Mothman continues to be spotted in and around O'Hare, the question on everyone's mind is, what does this presence portend? Is the creature a benevolent guardian watching over the airport and its inhabitants, or is it a malevolent force, a harbinger of some impending calamity? The answers remain elusive, but one thing is certain: the Mothman's presence has cast a pall of mystery and foreboding over the Windy City. Yeah, maybe it's just passing through too. I mean, I don't know. It could, good, bad, or indifferent. Maybe this thing is just indifferent. The idea that it's looking at people, I mean, is it observing people? Is it trying to make contact with them? I don't know. It goes on and says, as the sightings of the O'Hare Mothman continue to accumulate, theories and speculations about the creature's nature and origins have run rampant. From prosaic explanations to otherworldly hypotheses, the Mothman has become a subject of intense debate and fascination among skeptics, believers, and everyone in between. One of the most common theories put forth by skeptics is that the sightings can be attributed to misidentification of known animals. Large birds such as herons or cranes have been suggested as potential culprits, their size and silhouette potentially mistaken for a humanoid figure in the low light conditions often associated with Mothman encounters. Some have even proposed that these sightings could be the result of elaborate hoaxes, with pranksters donning costumes or using drones to create the illusion of a winged creature. Oh boy, that's a stretch. However, these explanations fail to account for the consistency and specificity of the witnesses' descriptions. The Mothman is consistently portrayed as a bipedal humanoid entity with glowing red eyes and expansive wings, a far cry from the appearance of any known bird species. Moreover, the idea of a coordinated hoax spanning years and involving multiple independent witnesses seems implausible at best. We hear the same thing with the cattle mutilations. Oh, what's the satanic cow tippers out there just punking us with all these cattle mutilations? I think it would be pretty hard to keep this Mothman hoax going for 60 years or better now. Another theory that has gained traction among cryptozoology enthusiasts is the possibility that the Mothman represents an undiscovered species. Proponents of this idea suggest that the creature could be a previously unknown type of large bat or avian cryptid, one that has managed to evade scientific documentation and classification. The Mothman's reported size, wingspan, and ability to fly would certainly make it an anomaly among known fauna, leading credence to the idea of a novel species. Yeah, I think that's a stretch. I think this is some kind of interdimensional thing myself. However, the notion of an undiscovered creature of such proportion living undetected in the heavily populated Chicago area strange credulity. With the extensive surveillance and monitoring systems in place at O'Hare and the surrounding regions, it seems unlikely that a large flying humanoid would escape detection for so long. Yeah, it seems pretty much impossible to me. This has led some researchers to propose some unconventional explanations for the Mothman phenomena. One such theory posits that the creature could be a paranormal or interdimensional entity. This idea, while far-fetched, would account for the Mothman's ability to appear and disappear seemingly at random, as well as its apparent immunity to physical constraints. Well, actually, I don't find this far-fetched at all. I mean, it seems like the obvious choice to me. Supporters of this theory often point to Mothman's alleged appearance before major disasters such as the Silver Bridge collapse in Point Pleasant. As evidence of its supernatural nature, they argue that the creature's presence could be a warning or omen of impending calamity, a manifestation of some higher power or cosmic force. Another intriguing hypothesis suggests that Mothman could be an extraterrestrial being, an alien entity visiting our world for purposes unknown. This theory, while highly speculative, has gained some traction due to the frequent reports of UFO activity in the vicinity of Mothman sightings. Some researchers have even suggested that the Mothman could be a sort of scout or emissary for an alien race sent to observe and monitor human activity. I've thought about that myself, and I think this could also be a similar explanation for Bigfoot, actually. Goes on, it says, while these paranormal and extraterrestrial theories are certainly intriguing, they lack the concrete evidence needed to elevate them beyond the realm of speculation. Without tangible proof, such as a clear photograph, videos, or physical remains, these ideas remain firmly in the domain of conjecture. You're going to have a hard time writing that off as proof with the photograph. I mean, that might be evidence, but with the AI we have today, it's going to be really hard for anybody to believe this just based on a picture, I think. Then it finishes up here. It says, ultimately, the true nature of the O'Hare Mothman remains a mystery. Whether it is a flesh and blood creature, a paranormal entity, or something else entirely, this winged humanoid continues to captivate and unsettle those who encounter it. As the sighting persists and the theories multiply, the search for answers only intensifies. Yeah, there have been a lot of cool sightings. I want to take a little bit further look into this as we talk about this really strange O'Hare Mothman. Now, I found this other short article over at Q985online.com. It's a radio station there out of Rockford, Illinois. Title says, terrifying red-eyed winged creature spotted again at one Illinois airport. Written by Lil Zim, Lil Zim, dated August 11th, 2023. A Chicago fireman stationed at O'Hare International Airport recently reported a terrifying encounter with Illinois infamous Mothman. And then it goes on. It's weird. Just stop and think about this. This is a fireman who's seen this thing, and then put his reputation on the line by reporting it. I mean, that means something to me. If you've never heard any tales about Mothman, aka Batman, let's get you up to speed, she says. Mothman is a winged creature that is said to have the body of a man and the wings of a moth. It is often described as being tall and lanky, with glowing red eyes and a wingspan up to 10 feet. According to legend, the Mothman is a harbinger of doom, appearing before tragic events such as a natural disaster or plane crash. While Mothman sightings are not unique to Illinois, many reports of sightings happen here, and a lot of them center around O'Hare International Airport in Chicago. And then it has an article actually taken from Singular 14 Society, reports that an anonymous Chicago fireman who has been stationed at O'Hare International Airport for the last 7 years recently experienced something he has never seen before on the job. And then it says here, December 29, 2022, around 11 p.m., this fireman said, I heard what sounded like a tripping sound, followed by what sounded like shuffling coming from nearby. I looked around, and that's when I heard the clicking coming from across the street. I looked up, and standing on the edge of the HVAC plant was a very tall, thin, human-like creature with huge wings that were spread out. This creature was looking directly at me with a pair of large red eyes that had the intensity of a pair of taillights. The fireman went on to say that the wings on this creature were like 15 feet in length, and that the stare down took place for about 5 to 7 seconds before it flapped its wings, flew away, and completely disappeared. When the fireman went to tell his co-workers what he had just seen, quote, a few of them spoke up and said that this was not the first time it had been seen, and that it had been seen around the HVAC plant a few times by people and around the airport by hundreds of employees, passengers, and pilots. Wow, that is really crazy. Isn't that wild? It's impressive to me that this fireman had this experience and then had the courage to report this thing. Let's take a look at another article here. Now, I found a pretty cool video of it, Reddit. It's about 8 minutes long. It was posted 5 years ago, but I'll put the link at the Ko-Fi site. As always, thanks to the folks that support the program over there. Now, it tells us that over 100 different sightings of flying winged humanoids have been reported in Chicago in the previous 2 years, which is a lot to me. It says at least 2 accounts came from police officers who corroborated these encounters. The common characteristics of what people are seeing, they said the creature is 7 to 9 feet tall, that it has these red or orange, very bright glowing eyes, that it's dark black, it walks on 2 feet, and that it has these membrane-like wings attached to its back. Very distinctive looking thing. Now, they say the phenomenon is known as Chicago Mothman, but it's also called by a lot of people the O'Hare Mothman, because there's been so many reports of these things spotted around O'Hare National Airport there in Chicago. And of course, this we all know this Mothman goes clear back to Pleasant Point, West Virginia, back in the 1967, mid-1960s. Now, there was a report made to a 911 on February 28, 2019, in the early morning hours of one of these Mothman sightings. The file shows the witness saw something large walking in the county fairgrounds near Jewel Osco in Woodstock, Illinois. It says 60 miles northwest of Chicago. The witness reported hearing a screeching noise, again noting it was walking upright. It said it looked like a 7 or 8 foot tall person. A half hour later, the responding deputy sheriff wrote the following, and then they redacted, it says redacted, had a sighting of a mysterious creature wearing all black. Redacted said the creature charged at him from the fairgrounds, screeching at him while he was in the Jewel parking lot, and then it retreated. The officer wrote, the investigation will continue. The file was obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request by the Singular 14. So here you see we have this sighting, and somebody has to file basically a FOIA request to get to it. I mean, this is maddening to me. I did think it's interesting, though, that this thing once again is seen at charging at somebody. So it's, I don't know, it's using these kind of pretty aggressive, actually, false charges at people. And I couldn't even imagine how terrified somebody might be going through something so crazy as that. 6 days earlier, a different witness saw something run across a road a few blocks away. He said it was 8 to 9 feet tall and looked leathery. Investigative journalist John Strickler spoke to the man, who said he thought it may have been a Bigfoot initially, but then noticed that it had a large set of membrane wings. Oh man. Attached to the back, extending over the top of its head. The arms and legs were well defined. Both sightings were near the Duffield Pond Conservation Area, one of many conservation parks in Chicago's northern suburbs. Strickler has mapped dozens of sightings inside Chicago city limits. Perhaps the most convincing comes from a Chicago PD officer who wished to remain anonymous to protect his career. I have been with the Chicago Police Department for over 8.5 years, he writes, in an account later documented by the Chicago Tribune. The only people who know that I have submitted this are my wife and my son, who encouraged me to submit this, and my partner, who also was a witness to this event. On the night of June 29, 2017, at approximately 11:15 p.m., my partner and I were on a routine patrol and approaching the intersection west of 81st and South Throop in the Arbon Gresham neighborhood. We were flagged down by a group of people who were pointing up to the top of an apartment building on the corner. We pulled over and they immediately started telling us to look up.
Yogurt
My
with
partner and I
blueberries.
look and see a large creature approximately 6.5 feet tall and was very thin. If it had been a human, it would have been emaciated. The thing was standing on top of the building and had what looked like a pair of very large wings that extended out at least 8 to 10 feet from tip to tip. No discernible features. It just looked like a dark black shadow with wings. When the officers shone their flashlights on to get a better look, it took off into the air and flew away. As it headed south from the area, something sounding like a scream came from it, and in a matter of about 5 seconds, it was gone. Other witnesses interviewed by the officers said they'd seen it over the previous 2 nights. The officer writes he and his partner filed a report, but they got no unusual response. From headquarters, investigative journalists have been unable to obtain the file. That's no surprise there. The police reports on these things, what really interests me, are the police officers. They're considered a reliable witness, and when you have police officers seeing these cryptids like this Mothman there in Chicago, that's really puzzling to me. Let's take a look at one last article and wrap this up. This last article details this postal worker's experience and gives a little more detailed recounting of what happened. This is from the singular14.com. It says UPS employee reports 7-foot-tall red-eyed creature at O'Hare International Airport by Tobias and Emily Whalen, October 13th, 2020. Manuel Navarrete of UFO Clearinghouse recently received the following report from a woman who said she'd seen a 7-foot-tall red-eyed creature after leaving work at the United States Postal Service sorting facility in Chicago's O'Hare International Airport at around 11 p.m. Thursday, September 24th. He starts by saying, I had just left work at the USPS sorting facility at O'Hare at around 11 p.m. Thursday on the 24th of September and was walking out to my car when I saw something standing at the far end of the parking lot where I usually park. At first, I thought it was a very tall person with a long coat. As I got closer to my car, I unlocked my car, which caused my headlights to come on. My headlights hit the person standing about 20 to 25 feet from my car, causing it to turn and look right at me. I saw that this was not some person, but some red-eyed creature, and that what appeared to be a coat were actually wings, which it spread out as it turned to look at me. At first, I thought it was some kind of a very, very large bird, but I've never seen any bird that stood almost 7 feet tall. I'm 5'4", and this thing looked taller than me, but at least by 2 feet. This thing then started making some type of chirping sound, almost a half chirp and then a half click, like someone was clicking their tongue, but much faster. It then made some type of screeching sound and took off running toward me. It got to within 10 feet of me and took off into the air and flew above me. I was screaming hysterically as I crouched down behind my car's open door and I dived into my car head first. I was in a near panic as I tried to start the car, close and lock the doors, and turn out my interior lights. I started my car and took off out of the parking lot and flew down the road till I hit the main road. I got home and told my husband, who also works at the same facility, and he was the one who told me about the sightings of this thing. I was scared and hoped I never see this thing again. This thing is roaming around the area, scaring people half to death. I hope the airport people decide to do something about this thing someday. Well, that is something that I wouldn't exactly count on myself. Now, the investigator, Manuel Navarrete, was able to meet with the witness to discuss her sighting. It says, although she was at first reluctant to discuss the issues after the initial report. I can imagine that. According to Navarrete, the witness is a 17-year veteran of the United States Postal Service and has worked at the O'Hare sorting facility for the last 15 years. She advised that on the night in question, she was walking toward her car after her shift ended and was checking her text messages.
Interesting, isn't it?
As she made the familiar walk to her vehicle. I asked her
Talking
if
about
there
the
were other
Mothman.
people around, to which she responded no, as most of the other employees leave right at shift change, and she usually sticks around to take care of the
Do
transition.
you
As the
believe in the
witness walked to the
Mothman?
car, she noticed what looked like a very tall man at the very far end of the parking lot that
I
she recently
assume
thought
so,
was
since you
one of
believe
her
in
fellow
Bigfoot.
coworkers. She continued. As she walked toward the car, she deactivated the car alarm, which automatically turned on the car headlights. The headlights illuminated the person at the other end of the parking lot, and it turned toward her, revealing a pair of bright red eyes, and it spread what looked like a giant pair of wings. When asked how big the wings were, she could not give me a definitive answer, but guesstimated that they must have been between 10 to 12 feet across. The being then began making a series of clicking noises, which she described as a cross between a click and a chirping sound. The being then let out a loud metallic screech that she described to me as sounding like the brakes on a large truck or train. Then, said Navarrete, the witness described how it began running toward her in these very long strides, at which point it took off into the air.
I've pretty
When I
much
asked her
been
to describe the
sleeping all
being and how it
day.
looked or flew, she said she did not look up as
So,
she
you
was
know
too
how it
busy
is on my
flinging the car door
Monday.
open and diving into her car while screaming. The witness stated that she started her car and turned on the interior lights, all while trying
As soon
to
as
keep her wits about her.
I hit
When I
an
asked her
hour
if she
on my
saw
live,
which way the creature flew away, she advised that
turn
she
it
didn't
off.
care where it flew off to, and she was not going to stick around to find out. The witness advised that she left the area in a hurry and did
Meanwhile,
not
you
slow
can
down
watch people
as she had
walk
left the
into my
area and had joined the main road in traffic. The sound described by the witness is similar to that
So
reported
funny.
by a witness in
They don't
Rockford
even
near
know
Hedgewood
they're
Park
alive.
and on the northern end of Northern Island in Chicago, and another encounter near O'Hare.
People
The
watching
witnesses in those
while
incidents said they
listening
heard a
about
sound
the
like screeching
Mothman.
brakes during or prior to their sightings. O'Hare International Airport has been the epicenter of recent winged humanoid sightings in the Lake Michigan Mothman investigation, with at least 10 sightings coming from the airport itself since August of 2019, and many more reported in the surrounding communities. This report constitutes the latest news in a string of Mothman sightings from within a few hundred-mile radius surrounding Lake Michigan, including every state bordering the Great Lakes. These sightings substantially began in the spring of 2017, but more historical accounts are being reported as more people become aware of the phenomena. They generally take place in the evening or at night, often or near a park or natural area, and around water. Witnesses consistently describe a large gray or black bat or bird-like creature, although in a small number of cases the creature was described as insect-like, sometimes with glowing or reflective red, yellow, green, or orange eyes, and the humanoid features such as arms and legs are often reported. Some witnesses have reported feeling intense fear and an aura of evil emanating from the creatures they have encountered. Many of the sightings are also something seen only briefly or are described only as a flying creature with few details, which leaves open the possibility that a misidentified large bird, such as a heron or crane or some type of anomalous avian species, could explain some, although certainly not all, of the encounters. A number of associated high strangeness incidents have also occurred alongside the creature sightings, including reports of UFOs or other anomalous flying creatures and mysterious humanoids, parapsychological phenomena, and bizarre events experienced by those investigating the sightings. Wow. Got some wild stuff. I just love these humanoid sightings. They're fun to read, and the fact that we have such a variety of people reporting them, people that seem like normal, reliable witnesses. Let me know what you think in the comments sections. Until next time, this is UFO Warning. Over and out.
The holidays are personal.
That was
As it should be too.
another show I would listen to. If you're interested, it's advertisement. Yep. You have to scan your badge. You can't go in there. See the top windows? That's where the offices are.
Can I get a second opinion on stocks in the
Yeah.
And that
Too bad they have these bright lights. I would be able to see the sky.
Hello and welcome. In this episode, we're talking about motherships over U.S. military bases. That's correct, motherships over U.S. military bases. This is basically a follow-up story to what broke here a few days ago with these drones over military bases. They're calling them UFO/drones. Nobody really seems to know what they are. I did post a video that someone had took and posted on YouTube over at my channel. Thank you very much for putting that up there for us. And it shows what looks like, to me, a flying saucer kind of flying a little bit tilted over this military base, over Langley Air Force Base. You can go over there and watch it at the YouTube channel, and the original video is also online too. But really weird stuff. Now, this thing did not look like a drone to me. Somebody put up that, oh, it looked like it might be Starlinks. Well, thanks for the comment, but actually the person that filmed this, they switched the camera, like, from horizontal to vertical, so I could see where somebody might think that it was satellites because they think that they're looking directly up. But what had happened was, it looks like these two guys are in a boat or something maybe, and they're kind of hanging on to the camera. But if you look at the very beginning of that video, you can see that clearly this is it looks to me like a saucer-shaped craft kind of on its edge, kind of tilted, like we see so many times with these things, and lights around the rim of it. Now, if they're flying multiple drones, why would they go to the trouble of having them in this tight formation like that? And if it was actually the Chinese or the Russians, whoever spying on us, why would they light them up? Why would you draw attention to yourself? The whole thing is strange. Anyway, this article, the first one we're looking at, comes to us from YNnews.com. It says UFO motherships released swarms of smaller craft over U.S. Air Force Base, says security expert. And this article is dated October 15th, 2024. In a shocking claim, a retired senior Pentagon official said that a UFO motherships had been releasing swarms of smaller craft, which has added more mystery to the intrusion over multiple U.S. military bases. The statement came at a time when the Air Force's 50-page records revealed about the provocative drone incursions, which one general called close encounters at Langley. As per the report, last December, multiple noisy and small UFOs were spotted at dusk for nearly 17 nights, moving at rapid speeds and displaying flashing red, green, and white lights, which penetrated the highly restricted airspace, which was above Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. Speaking to DailyMail.com, senior ex-Pentagon security official Chris Mellon said that the event was part of a much larger pattern affecting numerous national security installations. Of course, you might recognize that name, Chris Mellon. We did a podcast on him the other day. Two of the notable aspects, he said, adding, are the fact our drone signal jamming devices have proven ineffective, and these craft are making no effort to remain concealed. Now, he says our drone signal jamming devices have proved ineffective. Well, we heard in the last podcast that there have been a top-level meetings about this. I think even the White House, where they decided that they weren't going to jam them because they might interfere with critical communication infrastructure. In fact, in some instances, it is clear they want to be seen as though taunting us, Mellon said. I don't know if they're taunting us or if somehow the lights that these things emit are tied in with their whole existence. I don't know, because the lights are always there, aren't they? Every sighting seems to be about the lights. Mellon, who earlier worked as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence under both Presidents Clinton and George W. Bush, said while speaking to DailyMail.com that a similar series of intrusions has also occurred over Palmdale, California. Yeah, we did a podcast on that, and then later they came out and the debunkers tried to say, oh, it was just a drone show. A lot of confusing, incorrect information there from what I can tell. Palmdale is the home of defense contractor Lockheed Martin's classified Skunk Works, which was behind the F-22. Yeah, the F-22 and a lot of other stuff. Speaking to the War Zone, Edwards Air Force Base spokesman said that investigators were monitoring and monitoring that situation to determine if there is any ill intent, and even if not, we are trying to find out why or who is doing it. Look, you have to assume it's ill intent. I mean, it's over a top secret installation. Wouldn't you be a little bit more concerned than that? I don't know. I make no claims regarding their origin, and perhaps many are Chinese drones, he said. This is Mellon, while speaking to DailyMail.com. But their brazenness, range, flight duration, reliability, resistance to countermeasures, and indifference to detection are confounding. In some cases, motherships have been reported, he added. These motherships were extremely fast, large vehicles that have been observed collecting or releasing a swarm of smaller craft, Mellon said. Now that is very, very interesting. I'd like to get a little bit deeper into that. Okay, so let's go back over here to this original article of DailyMail.com and see what we can find out about these crazy UFO/drones over these military bases. And now we're hearing that they're actually being released from motherships. I don't think it gets any stranger than that. So this next article comes to us from dailymail.co.uk. The title says, drone swarms targeting U.S. military bases are operated by mothership, UFO claims top Pentagon official. And then it goes on, this is from Matthew Phelan, dated October 14th, 2024. A retired senior Pentagon official has confirmed that UFO motherships were spotted releasing swarms of smaller craft, adding further mystery to the still unexplained intrusions over multiple U.S. military bases. His statements come amid the release of 50 pages of Air Force records related to provocative drone, quote-unquote, incursions that one general calls, quote, close encounters at Langley, unquote. For at least 17 nights last December, swarms of noisy, small UFOs were seen at dusk, moving at rapid speeds and displaying flashing red, green, and white lights, penetrating the highly restricted airspace above Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. Senior ex-Pentagon security official Chris Mellon told DailyMail.com that the episode was part of a much larger platform affecting numerous national security installations. Two of the notable aspects, he said, of the fact our drone signal jamming devices have proven ineffective, and these craft are making no effort to remain concealed. In fact, in some instances, as Mellon took pains to emphasize, it is very clear they want to be seen as though taunting us. It doesn't sound like somebody on the ground, some knucklehead out there flying these things around. Mellon, who served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence under both Presidents Clinton and George W. Bush, told DailyMail.com that since last year's Langley events, a similar series of intrusion has also occurred over Palmdale, California. An hour's drive north of Los Angeles, Palmdale is home to defense contractor Lockheed Martin's classified Skunk Works, which made the F-22. A spokesperson for Edwards Air Force Base near Palmdale told the War Zone this August that investigators were monitoring the situation to determine if there is any ill intent, and even if not, we are trying to find out why or who is doing this. Yeah, I really don't think that they should have to try to determine if there's ill intent. If something's flying over your top secret installation, maybe you could just assume it. Similar efforts are still underway on the East Coast at Langley, but the commander of its Air Combat Command, General Mark Kelly, said the government is stumped. Well, that's convenient. The bizarre craft above Langley, home to at least half the Air Force's fleet of F-22 Raptor stealth fighters, led to 2 weeks of emergency White House meetings. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence. I mean, half your F-22s in this place, you've got these craft flying overhead, you've got citizens taking video of it, and you're telling me there's nothing you can do about it except have meetings for 2 weeks. That is really some inept stuff there. The bizarre craft above Langley, home to at least half the Air Force's fleet of F-22 Raptor stealth fighters, led to 2 weeks of emergency White House meetings. Wouldn't you like to know who was running those meetings? And over the past 10 months, Air Force investigators, local police, and even NASA analysts operating the systems agency's high-tech WB-57F research planes have all taken a crack at trying to identify the mysterious craft with no answers in sight. What would the U.S. do, as General Kelly put it to the Wall Street Journal, if this happens over the National Mall? I don't know. Maybe have more meetings, or maybe they would take all of the big shots and fly up to Camp David. Who knows? And it's got a picture of one of these beautiful F-22s here. The bizarre craft above Langley, which is home to at least half the Air Force fleet of stealth F-22 Raptor fighter jets, it says, led to 2 weeks of emergency meetings at the White House, and then has a picture here. Really wild stuff. Now, there were 50 pages of reports released. We do have here in this DailyMail.com article a short excerpt of an eyewitness statement, one of the airmen there apparently on the ground. I'm going to go ahead and read this to you and just get a sense of the urgency of these people reporting these UFOs or drones, whatever you want to call them. I think drone now is a code word for UFO. And paying attention to the fact that they couldn't figure out where they were coming from. They got the local police involved to see if they could track them down around town there anywhere. Nowhere. Remember we said that this Langley Air Force Base is like 3,600 acres, I think, or something around that, including some of the little areas around it. So, you're talking 3,000 to 4,000 acres altogether with all the different military stuff around there. And then the city around that. Why aren't they able to track these things? When you have people that are videotaping them, videoing them with their phone off the coast out there in the water.
Exactly.
Other people are recording these things, but we're told our government can't do anything. Really not reassuring. Okay, go ahead and listen to this account, and then we'll finish back up with this article. Now, we have this excerpt, it looks like a report. It's a witness statement basically from the Air Force. Really cool stuff, and I'll read it off here. It says, on 7 December 23 at approximately 1830 hours, BDOC notified and dispatched all patrols to the area building 791/94 FS hangar for possible drone sighting. BDOC relayed caller stated he spotted a drone hovering over building 791, but was unable to give a description at that time. And then it has redacted, spotted the person's name, I suppose, spotted one drone over the previously mentioned location and another drone in the area of the on-base officer housing headed toward, redacted, entry control point from approximately 1840 until 2330. That's about 5 hours. Myself and other patrols spotted approximately 5 to 10 drones across mainly the south, southeast, and southwest directions of the installation. BDOC contacted YPSO and Hampton PD to assist with tracking drones in residential areas off base, but contact was not made with any potential drone operators. At approximately 21:30 hours, while at building 330, redacted, and myself witnessed a drone traveling from the northeast side of the installation to the southwest side of the installation with red and white flashing lights. After traveling approximately 100 yards in the same direction, the drone turned around and headed back toward the northeastern side of base, crossing over the west and east ramps of the flight line. The drones varied in size, ranging up to 3 foot by 3 foot in size, with a combination of red, white, and or green blinking lights. However, the drones were not close enough to get an actual visual on their size, weight, and distinguishing marks. The drones appear to be flying to and from the Gestnolds Hope Park area just south of the installation. The last known sighting of the drones were approximately 2113 near the electrical substation located on Andrews Street. And then that's the end of the statement there. This is some pretty intense stuff, man. What do you want to call these things, drones or UFOs, whatever they are, flying over this Air Force base. Let's go ahead and continue with this article. Now, I just love those first-hand accounts. I think that was really some powerful testimony there. The article goes on and says, General Kelly said the unidentified craft appeared to be 20 feet long and were capable of flying over 100 miles per hour at an altitude of 3,000 to 4,000 feet. Now, notice there, he says the unidentified craft, singular. He says 20 foot long. The soldier's talking about drones / UFOs that are 3 foot by 3 foot in size. So that makes you wonder, hey, what's going on here? And they're saying these things are 3,000 to 4,000 feet up. The ones that we're seeing online, maybe that's correct. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell how high up they are. The journal noted an overlapping incident in which a University of Minnesota student and Chinese national Feng Shi was caught photographing U.S. Navy vessels under construction in nearby Norfolk, Virginia, via commercial drone. Now, that could be an actual lead where, we have this massive effort by Chinese people over here filming our thing, possible, or this could kind of be a little rabbit trail they're sending us down. It seems like what they have seen would take more than one person to pull off. It says, but the amateurish incident for which she was sentenced to 6 months in federal prison appears to be unrelated to the sophisticated squadrons of mystery craft. I make no claims regarding their origin. Perhaps many are Chinese drones, Mellon told DailyMail.com. Well, then let's just shoot them down and find out. But their brazenness, range, flight duration, reliability, resistance to countermeasures, and indifference to detection are confounding. Now, Mellon says resistance to countermeasures, but everything we've read so far shows that there are no countermeasures being taken. I mean, these young guys are running around, chasing them around on base there, sounds like, and no one's shooting at them. They call the local police. This General Kelly, he says his hands are tied. They had 2 weeks of emergency meetings in the White House. Not sure if anybody even showed up for those. I mean, what's going on? He goes ahead and says, in some cases, motherships have been reported, according to Mellon, who also managed security and information operations for part of his time at the Pentagon. Kind of a little bit of an authority figure thrown in there, in this reporting. Christopher Mellon, I mean, he's definitely, in my opinion, one of the big time dogs in the UFO mafia. He's got lots and lots of street cred as far as getting videos out to YouTube. Says these motherships, Mellon clarified, were extremely fast, larger vehicles that had been observed collecting or releasing swarm of smaller craft. Now, I'm not sure where he gets his information at. I'm going to take him at his word because he has provided us with a lot of good information, even though I would say he is formally employed by the deep state. But you have to wonder what's going on here. It seems like they're almost just like peddling this out a little bit at a time. He says our one such mothership case was investigated by the FAA Special Agent Michael Bumberger over Nebraska, government records show. Local sheriffs reported seeing 30 to 50 unusual craft flying independently of one another with a larger mothership hovering nearby for hours. Now, not giving us a lot of detail on that. At Langley last December, Air Force personnel equipped with drone busters, signal jamming weaponry designed to counter remotely piloted enemy drones, reported that these mystery craft failed to register on their anti-drone devices. That is very interesting because we were previously told that they couldn't use the signal jamming equipment because it could interfere with 911 calls and cell phones and whatnot. So once again, we're getting these mixed messages. It's almost like the government's trying to put out this secondary narrative. The first narrative is, man, we have a lot of UFOs flying over military bases. Why aren't you doing something about it? Remember a couple of years ago, they were flying over Colorado, parts of Nebraska. I know in one case, the local sheriff came out and warned people not to shoot at these drones. It's a federal offense. Perfectly okay for them to penetrate the security of nuclear power plants, nuclear weapons, all kinds of military bases, but nobody can shoot them down because that would be dangerous. So that's the first narrative. Hey, we have UFOs flying over military bases and nuclear power plants and nuclear missile sites. Then that kind of morphs into, hey, I think these things are drones.
They're probably.
But that's not panning out because local people are providing real-time video of this stuff. And they don't look like drones. They look like giant flying saucers. And now, just in the last day, we have this new release of information coming out saying, well, it looks like we've got this large mothership releasing these drones. I haven't heard of too many motherships releasing drones before. I've heard of UFOs releasing smaller UFOs that may happen to look like drones. Maybe they're camouflaging as drones, I don't know. But you can see how the story is developing. It's almost like they're having to counteract the narrative. You have the actual truth. People see UFOs over military bases. The government immediately says, well, it must be drones. Well, the common sense answer to that is, well, if it's drones over military bases and they aren't ours, then take them out.
Exactly.
Well, they can't take them out. So first take them out and they say, oh no, we can't use the jamming equipment because that would interfere with 911 calls and whatnot. But here we find out that they did try to use jamming equipment at Langley. Exact opposite of what they told us
maybe
before. Remember, they told you before, oh, you can't use jamming equipment because it interfere with the local 911? Doesn't appear to have bothered them before, because now we're finding out that they did, in fact, use jamming equipment and it didn't work. Sounds like a pretty fancy drone to me.
Yeah.
Pretty fancy drone that comes riding in on a mothership, gets dumped out over your military base, hangs out for 5 hours, and then goes back to mama ship to leave. And when you try to jam it, nothing happens.
'Tis the season for shopping, and with Rakuten, it's also the season for stacking up the savings. Use Rakuten to stack
Magneto
cashback
Cully.
on top of holiday sales.
It's time for me to
Rakuten, you can save
go
money
to
on gifts
work.
for everyone on your list. From toys for the little one to kitchen gear for the hostess with the most to
Bye-bye.
electronics for yourself. Did I mention that Rakuten is super easy to use? Just start your shopping at Rakuten.com or in the Rakuten app. Do your shopping like you normally would, and you'll get the cash back by PayPal or check. It's truly
See
a
you
no-brainer.
later.
Join for free at Rakuten.com.
See you tomorrow
Or download the
morning for my
Rakuten app.
morning drive
That's
with
RAKUTEN.
Talk Radio.
Rakuten.com.
Curious enough how you can achieve
Adios.
smooth, natural-looking, long-lasting filler results? The Juvederm collection